Yes, we can set a time. Am I? No, I mean, just, we'll schedule
Call this meeting to order. I only have 2 items to hold on the consent agenda, 4.2 and 4.14.
4.12.
4.2, yeah.
Sorry, what's that? 4.2, 4.14, and 4.14.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the balance.
Thank you. In favor? Opposed? So I believe 4.2 is Councilor Brown?
Yes, thank you very much. This is the report on the Clovis Creek. It's an update actually as to where they are with the stormwater or the flood management. And I have some questions, and then I'm wondering how we're going to communicate this information with the residents that are affected. The first question is on page 9. At the bottom paragraph, staff indicated that the region's concerns would be best addressed during the detailed design of landform. Town staff have offered to create a steering committee. Have they agreed to that, to the steering committee, and has it been formed?
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. No, they haven't agreed to. We've circulated a revised plan to them, and we've offered to meet after they had an opportunity to review the plan, meet them down on site, and we're hopeful that they're going to be satisfied with the changes we made to the plan.
Okay, so but you have no indication from them as to any dates or?
No, I don't.
So are we bugging them regularly to?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you. Let me know how that goes, and if indeed they agree on who's going to be on that committee. There's a number of indications from this report how there's been a vast reduction in those homes that are affected, and there's a suggestion that we shouldn't put this in the long-range forecast now, because of until the detailed design is complete. And I think that has to be communicated to the residents as well. So I wondered if you had a plan to do that. If not, I would ask that that be.
Spoken to Mr. O'Rourke already about with regards to a newsletter to be distributed to the residents. So after this meeting today, we'll start working on a draft and we'll follow up with that draft to be sent out to the residents to give them an update of what the status is of the project today.
Because this should have been, I know it's kind of hard to be presented in a public information, in a public forum, but this is just an update. But I think those affected should really know where we are, and particularly that we're not going to put it in the forecast. I agree it's prudent not to, but they have to be communicated to that effect, because there's going to be a lot of publicity about Roper 128. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan, and we'd be pleased to do that. We agree with that suggestion, and staff are already working on a newsletter. We'll run it by yourself, and you can give us some feedback on that. We'll get it out before the Christmas break.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Your parish?
Yeah, I read this report, and Councilor Brown has highlighted it, but when I got to these sections about this ongoing dialogue, I think 2 or 3 extensions of the timeline, and et cetera, and maybe it's just because I'm a lawyer and I'm paranoid and stuff, but I mean, we have an EA conflict with the region of Durham on one of their projects, and I would hate to think this was just you throw rocks in my backyard and I'm going to throw rocks in yours, because the nature and the complexity of these 2 EAs are not even on the same planet. And I'm wondering, are we getting a sense that the region's being obstructionist in this? And you don't have to comment as a staff person in any vehement way, but are they dealing with us in good faith with a view to resolve these issues? I know they have physical infrastructure down there that they must protect, but reading between the lines, I'm getting kind of a bad feeling about this.
Through the chair, to the mayor, with regards to that, we suspected that on the early goings of our first initial response from them, because it came out of the blue. Because
On the last day.
On the very last day of our 30-day appeal, we spoke to the MOE with regards to this and thought that they were attempting to delay or frustrate us as far as the project goes. I spoke directly to the MOE about those issues. What they conveyed back to the town was that the region actually had an opportunity to continue with consultation with the town with regards to the EA until the design or the construction started. So they felt as though it was probably in the process's best interest that we consult further with them. So what we've done is we tried to meet with them and tried to further our consultation period with them to try and address some of the issues. A lot of the issues from staff's point of view is they could have been dealt with at the detailed design. There's very detailed issues they're trying to deal with. So what we've done is allowed them to have further consultation, allowed to make some minor changes to the plan so that we can demonstrate to the MOE, if it gets to that point, that we've done all we can and that they're at a point where they're frustrating or delaying the project. At the meeting with October 25th, further to what your other comment is that they let us know that they felt as though the region staff felt as though that they're being unfairly blamed about the water quality along the shoreline. And they felt as though that there's a double standard related to water quality. Obviously rebutted that from my experience with the town and all the projects that we're doing as far as water quality, the retrofit study, the shoreline study, all the public awareness programs that we're involved with. I don't think that the region staff was aware of what types of efforts we've made to date. So a lot of the discussions seem to be about their frustration related to the water pollution control.
So I'm right, it's tit for tat.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but what we're trying to do is follow the process and we'll take it to the MOE from this point on.
How much longer do we need to do the dance and document their obstructionist tactics, et cetera, before we file it?
Well, what we're going to do from this point on, we're going to meet with them one more time. We're going to send them a letter, a document, a brief on our discussions on how we've altered the plan to satisfy some of their issues. And we're CCing the MOE, and from that point on, we'll approach the MOE for filing. And
Rough timeline?
I think that we've addressed, from the staff's point of view, we've addressed their issues enough to move forward with the...
So what's the rough timeline on that?
I'm hoping to have it wrapped up sometime early in the new year.
By the end of February?
Early in the new year. Sometime in the...
You could say that June 29th is early in the new year, maybe
Yeah.
the halfway mark. So what's your best guess?
My best guess would agree with you. The end of February. That's
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say,
That wasn't so hard. Okay, I thank you for that. I do agree with Councillor Brown's comments with respect to communication, and you seem to have that well in hand. I think this has been a long process, and we started off on this process in a very proactive way, being very transparent with the residents down there, communicating with them. And I think that there's been some significant developments with ROPA and with with this ongoing EA, and that needs to be communicated. And my final comment is that perhaps Councillor Brown should have a chat with one of her neighbors over on Turnbull. Taylor.
Oh, who?
Roger Anderson.
Oh, Taylor, he lives on Taylor, yes. I don't smoke anymore.
There you go.
We used to go out and
You'll have to start up
together.
again. That's
Anything
all.
further? Okay, can I have a motion to approve then? In favor, any opposed? Thank you, it's carried. So going to 4.4 on the agenda, or sorry, 4.2, here, Parrish.
4.12. Thank you.
4.2.
Yeah, I pulled this, I want to,
That's in-
council has been made aware of this midterm review of the community action plan, and I've been dealing with Ms. Murray on this periodically, just to plan it, put it in place. There is a position for a facilitator to facilitate this meeting. And my comment to Ms. Murray was that I didn't really see the necessity of a facilitator because we've been through this several times, and the real thrust of this is to see how we're doing on it midterm, to maybe prioritize for the second half of the term and get down to the nitty-gritty of what we've got left to do and what our priorities are. And I suggested to Ms. Murray that it would be most appropriate to see what council thinks about this, and so that obviously she can finalize the preparation one way or the other. So I just asked Ms. Murray to speak to that particular part of it, and any other part that councillors have questions on, and so that some kind of decision can be made on that.
Thank you. So as you know, the date's been set for January the 17th. I will just bring up a couple other items as well. That the agenda is set for 12:30, but we will be bringing in lunch at 12 o'clock, so we just wanted to let you know about that. And as Mayor Parrish mentioned, the agenda is currently under development now. I've been meeting with senior staff to work through that piece, and of course, as we have done in the past, we will be seeking council's input as well and insights, so you can expect an email from me within the next week or two, and an opportunity for you to add anything to the agenda that you would specifically like to be discussed that day. And I've also had an opportunity to speak with the majority of senior management staff on the need for a facilitator. And there's strong support that a facilitator would be very resourceful and useful for that day for a couple of reasons. One, it allows political leaders and as well staff to contribute equally in the dialogue that day. Susan Wright of Wright Consulting was the facilitator that started the plan with us a number of years ago and has facilitated a number of sessions with us. And Susan's able to be biased and a neutral contributor. Sorry, unbiased. Neutral and unbiased that day, which I think really goes a long way in helping the dialogue move along, and particularly if we're dealing with any sensitive matters at all that day. So she really is able to sort of manage that relationship very easily, and we've been able to do that. And I also think it's important from a continuity perspective, because we have used her to start the plan. It would be helpful in the process to bring her in that day to facilitate the discussion and dialogue. Council has a good relationship with her, so does senior staff. At this point appears to have a good relationship with Mrs. Wright, so I think it would be certainly helpful to continue on that path to use her in this. And she's very comfortable with our plan and has a really good sense of what's in and our midterm point. And there may be a desire down the road to have her come back and actually facilitate the next session, and obviously that will be up to council to make that final decision on who that might be. As I mentioned, I have had an opportunity to speak to most senior management staff on it, and there was concurrence that this would be a very valuable and useful resource.
Thank you. Councillor Collier, you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay. So, thank you, Madam Chair. What's the cost of a facilitator?
$2,500, and that's some pre-work. as well, and then facilitation of the day, and then she will wrap up comments and provide a mini report to us.
That's my question.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, I'd just say that if $2,500, it would be worth it to have her there, because as Mary said, she's apart from staff and council, so she can unbiasedly facilitate the meetings and write the report at the end of the day, and it's worth the $2,500 in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there a motion then to approve? All in favor then?
Just a second.
Sorry.
We have to amend this?
No. Okay,
No.
no. We were just looking for direction to come up with Mrs. Wright.
That's good,
Okay,
sorry.
we have moved by Councillor Jordan, in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The next one was pulled was 4.14.
Wonder who pulled that?
I think it's.
What, you got your way?
I just want to say that I think that's an excellent solution to the issues that we were having. And I want to thank you for all the effort that you put into this and all the whining you heard in the past year. And whoever else had
Yeah, 2
input
years.
into. Yes, I guess in there. Well, it's been a year of that, right? And it's been very quiet, so I don't know. I'm not asking questions, so I think whatever is good is great, and so I just want to thank you very much for everything that I believe that it addresses the situation very well. Sorry for dragging you into your office to say thank you.
Doesn't
get it very often.
He doesn't get that many
Well, you
attaboys.
moved the
Oh, yeah, I'll move the report.
There you go.
All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Go back. So, on to the next.
Roger, 83.
Yeah, if I can just click in the right spot.
Need a presentation?
Raise that.
I'll move
You can do it.
I don't think we have a lot of say in this.
No, you have a lot of sayings, right?
It's very straightforward matter, a monopole in an area where we've had no concerns or comments brought forward by the public. So, yeah, I'm at council's wishes. If you'd like the presentation, we have one to give. If you'd like to deal with it with some questions, and I'm all right with that also.
I don't need a presentation, I just have one or two questions or comments, that's all. Well, not to be critical, but I have read many of these reports, as have other members of council, and it's a perennial statement that the town is working on and has not yet completed its protocol with respect to these applications. And I think we had an initial staff presentation on a proposed protocol or the process and the background, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And I'm just wondering, when are we finalizing our protocol?
Yeah, I followed up with the team about the protocol.
With who?
I followed up with our planning policy staff about the protocol. It isn't complete. They do have a couple items kind of on their agenda before, but it is one that's on their agenda to get too soon. So I think they're saying next year they're looking at.
Am I going to have to ask the same series of questions?
I'll take back your comments and hopefully.
No, but maybe Mr. Allure would like to comment. When are we going to see this? I mean, is it that, I mean, I would imagine there's been a half a dozen GTA municipalities, like at a minimum, that already have their protocol in place. Is it the glacial lake bottom that makes us unique, or why haven't we got this thing done?
Yeah, isn't it?
Well, it's on the work plan, and with many other items, I could recite them if you'd like. And over the last couple of years, with issues like our advocacy positions that we've had over the last couple of years in the policy area, and anywhere from climate change to water quality to stormwater.
We've had a lot on our plate.
We've got a lot on our plate is what I'm trying to say. We know it's important, and it's on the work plan, and all I can tell you, if we can stick to the work plan, and we don't have too many of these threads pulling us apart, we have plans to take care of this spring.
Is there one or two nuts to crack that council's not aware of that is causing this delay? Or
As I said, I think primarily, over the last year, we've had spent a considerable amount of time on Ropo 128. We spent a considerable amount of time on the Duffins Creek Water Pollution Control Plant. We were the only municipality in Durham to finalize their OP and take it through the process. We've had appeals with respect to that we've been working through. So there's been many conflicting matters that have come up over the last year, and we prioritize the projects that we have. And this, although is something that has lagged, hasn't had the priority of others.
So in effect, then, there's nothing that council isn't aware of other than staff workload and constraints. There isn't something under the bed here that is a tough nut to crack, or has political ramifications, or anything like that.
There is not, and I can assure you that we've just of late, with the completion of Ropo 128 and a couple of other projects, been working on the policy work plan and have put timelines together on about a half a dozen projects that are outstanding. I was going to speak a bit about those conflicts under my departmental report piece, and we can continue that discussion there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further? Have a motion to approve? In favor, any opposed? Thank you, carried. So we're at 5.2, the agenda, the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan.
Person from that, we should take them.
Yeah, it's like 4.
Through the chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. We're going to be talking about three items: the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan, the recently completed tree inventory that we've done on municipal properties. That was completed this year, and also there's a cup being passed around. And it's what it is.
Candy.
Nope, it's a tree care kit we put together.
Yeah, we'll give you candy.
I'll take them on.
It's a tree care kit we put together, which is a ton of information. It's a PDF format that we've been giving out at public events to help educate our residents. So keep that as a newsletter. So first, I want to talk about the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan. So a bit of background: EAB was identified as an invasive insect pest in 2002. It was confirmed, unfortunately, in Ajax in 2012, and that was in August. I was one of the ones that discovered it. From a residential call just for normal general prune, they asked us to come out and clean the trees. So that's how it was found in August. We've also, as I mentioned, completed a tree inventory, and that was done this year. Through that inventory, we've identified what our overall inventory is, so how many trees we have in Ajax on town property, but we've also identified specifically how many ash we have. So we know there's 7% of our tree canopy is ash, so we're talking street trees 3,100 and park trees 741. Now that does not include our woodlots or our naturalized areas, which we know. Now I'm talking town of Ajax owned land, private land, and conservation authority lands that are right full of ash, so they're not included in the inventory. So in the management plan that we created, we hired a consultant. Through the recommendations on how to manage this pest, emerald ash borer, there's a number of ways to manage it. We can have minimal management, where we just wait for the insect to pass through our municipality, affect our ash trees, which is ultimately killing them, and remove them as we go. Not a great option, but it is an option. The second option is active management. This is one that we are recommending. This is where we go through and we try to manage the pests. So we use various treatment methods, which the one that's approved right now is Treason. We have tried it in the spring. I was at this table earlier this year, and we did use this product on 115 trees within Ajax. And just early test results of what I've seen. One of the streets where we know we found it was not treated, but a street right next door that did have the treatment seems to be doing well, and there's no signs of symptoms in it. So active management is the way to go. It does include removal, because we know we cannot save them all. The pest is going to probably get ahead of us. But it is a piece that is in the active management. The preemptive management, it assumes that most of the untreated trees will die in the next 5 to 10 years. They're removed in a cost and efficient manner, so it's really just going through and systematically removing all the ash trees. It allows you to get a head start on and start to replace your tree canopy, but it's not a great option for us because we have it here now, and we have some great ash trees, and we want to preserve them. So, and aggressive management, lastly, that's where it isn't yet in the municipality. It's very low in your inventory and your canopy, and you go through and you aggressively remove. So you remove as fast as you can, and it's not really the best option for us at this time. So the recommended approach, as I said, is the active management, where we treat as many trees as we can that are significant and in good quality and in good condition, and we look at removal and replacement. It is going to be a fact that there will be some trees removed and will have to be replaced. So again, these are all ash trees. We would be looking to treat all the trees that are over 20 centimeter DBH. So I'll explain what DBH stands for, diameter at breast height. So that's a size class that you use for measuring how big a tree actually is. And we want to try and treat 70% of those ash trees. So as many of those inventory as we can treat, we want to try and manage 70% to keep them in good condition. The trees that are less than 20 centimeter in diameter, we would be looking to remove and replace as required, because it's more cost effective to do that. Obviously, the larger the tree, the more it contributes to our environment and our community, and that's why most municipalities have gone with that recommendation to treat the trees that are over 20 centimeters. We also want to manage our wood waste. I know that there's going to be a lot of it, but we want to use it for mulch, grind it up. We would have it also for like our shrub beds and to re-put back into our inventory around the base of trees through our plant healthcare program. So we would be really managing our wood waste to the best of our ability, exploring all options. So we know we're going to get a lot of it. So I just wanted to show you a map of the ash trees that are greater than 20 centimeters throughout town. What we have is, you can see the highlighted areas. These are the areas we'd be looking to treat within our streets and our park systems. And these are some of the trees that would be eventually removed. So these are less than 20 centimeters, so these are going to be a big impact to our residents and some of the communities. But we would be definitely communicating with them and working with them and have a replacement program and everything systematically done as required as we move through, as this insect moves through our community. So the 70% treatment approach, you see 1,200 trees up there in a 2-year cycle. That's because we recognize that some of the inventory that's over 20 is going to have to be removed. The costs are rounded up, they're in the report, I won't go through them. But I will speak that after 2017, we do suspect that the costs are going to substantially decrease, and I will show you that as I move through this presentation. So these are some of the cost factors. The consultant provided us with some options that we could decide on what we wanted to do. So the one that's in red there is the minimal management approach. So you can see that in year 2013, the cost is relatively low, but it goes up quite a bit as the insect explodes, because we have a food source for this insect. So it's going to explode, and the costs to remove and to keep on top of this insect are going to be a challenge. So this graph just really illustrates what options were available to us. And if you look at the blue option, it's the 70% option. So we would want to try and minimize that, or we want to try and capture that. So if we can keep our canopy and work through as this pest makes its way through our community. So it's the treatment that really helps us to sustain our canopy cover, keep our good quality ash trees, and the costs are comparable. In fact, actually less. So as I mentioned earlier, over a 15-year period, and this insect sweeps through our community, you can see the cost spike for 2017, 16, and 15. In 2018, our costs are going to start to decrease, and then they sort of level out when we get to 2027 for 15 years. But that's really for the continued treatment of the trees every 2 years. So that's our hope and our intent. And that concludes my presentation on the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan. Did you want to do questions now before I move on to the next two segments, or do you want to do it all at once? Whatever we'd like.
What's your next segment?
Segments on the tree inventory.
How
So I just wanted to speak on the tree inventory. Want to wait?
It's so quick. I just want to know, what do you plant, and when you take out an ash, what do you plant in its place?
We're not going to put an ash back. I can tell you
That's-
that. But we are going to be looking at. We have probably one of the most diversified plant tree species lists in the GTA. We plant Carolinian species. We look at many different options that are out there for street trees. So again, we try and put in as many natives as we can, but Ajax is unique because of where we sit in the climate zone. We can pick in some Carolinian species like that. We've started planting tulip trees and London plane trees and just different species that we know will grow here. So those are what we'll be putting back along the streets. And we work with the residents too, right? Like we always use the motto, right tree, right place, and we educate. We do this now. So if we take a tree down, whether emerald ash borer is a factor or not, a tree has to come down. We work with the resident to advise them on what we think is the best tree to go on their front lawn, and to allow them to pick from, say, 3 or 4 of them that we know that will work there. So that will continue to happen.
Thank you.
Okay? So Rob Halko is here from our IT department. We were going to try and do this live so you can see how we want to interact with our community. This is a tree inventory that we completed. There's a ton of data that's come out of this inventory that's going to be very useful to us. We've linked it with our U4 analysis, which is now called EcoTree. Some of you might remember we did a U4 analysis back in 2008 where we identified and looked at what our urban forest was as a whole for the whole town of Ajax. Well, this iTree program, linked in with the GPS and our coordinates and the inventory that we took, is now called iTree. And it really hones in on what our municipal property trees are doing for our community. So this is as a whole, is all the streets that were inventoried. You can see a couple of them missing just because trees were not planted in the new communities. The residents will be able to pull this up, have a look at what and where the trees are on municipal property, and through a search item that Rob can show us next, they can query their address, and they can really hone in on what they have. So, do you want us to use the freeze plane? Pick one, whatever you want to do.
Okay, let's run it.
So what we were hoping was that the residents could query, I'll just pick an address, 34 Agate Road, and they'd be able to look at their address, see what type of tree they had in their front lawn on municipal property, the condition that it's in, and the size of it, and just the various information that we have available to us would be presented to the residents. So it's a little slow. That's we can get it linked up
Do
here.
members of council have access to this program?
Yeah, certainly. It'd be on our website, accessible through our website. Yeah. And again, if they had an ash tree on their front lawn, they'd be able to know that, because not all the streets are lined with ash. There's ash trees mixed in with other species, so we don't have a monoculture. But with emerald ash borer and the education pieces we have coming forward, they'd be able to look at this website, look at our website, dial into this program, and then tell what they had on their front lawn. So the green dots, I don't know if you can see them, Rob just highlight over top of them. you can pick right, you can like zone right in on it. Just we find it to be another tool that we can use, but also the residents of Ajax. So we can see that this one is a northern red oak, and then the coordinates, and you can also see now the DVH it's just 4 centimeters. It's a small planted tree, but the information is there for the residents. Okay. And last but not least, sorry, I just want to point out, this would tie in with our CityWorks program. So I know some of you know about our CityWorks, but the GPS data will overlap on our CityWorks and help us with our inventory as we send our crews out and our contractors to complete work. So it's all tied in together. We've thought that all through. So next, I wanted to present the Town of Ajax Tree Care Kit. Some of members of council that have come up to some of our community events have seen it. We've been working very closely with our communications group, come up with this PDF file that really links all the paper information that we've gathered and given into a nice format that we're able to give to our residents to take away rather than taking away paper. And we know what happens to paper. You get it, you kind of toss it to the side. But this is all on a memory stick. And the feedback we've got so far has been great. Our residents seem to like it. But it's got all of our information in it. So I'll just scroll through a couple of them here. So we have an introduction to the urban forest. We have worked with many partners, as we did in our urban forestry management plan, like, for example, the Made for Shade brochures from the region of Durham. The Landowner's Guide to Controlling Invasive Woodland Pests, that's a provincial document. We have Trees Are Good information, Healthy Yards brochure, which is the Town of Ajax's unique quality with working with our engineering people. We have our municipal street tree information and sheet and maintenance guides, so new residents come into town and they live in a new subdivision, they can see how to care for their tree. And we also have the emerald ash borer. So I hope everybody got a memory stick. Take it with you. I'll just go through this at a high level. You guys can go through it at your own pace, but you can see it's very high quality, very informative. So like what your tree needs and why, it's this all great information. Healthy Yards, they can click on this brochure here and zone right into alternative gardening, water conservation. It's really a snapshot of everything as a whole, and it ties in again to our sustainability plan. So it's all great information we put all together on one stick. The great thing about this too is that we can revisit this every year, and if we need to add or change, we have the ability to do that. And again, reissue or have them available. And this is also available on our website. It's on there now, so anybody can go and see this from our community. Any questions?
Good job.
Thank you. Councilor Jordan?
Just, I couldn't tell on the map on here. Are there some streets where every tree would fall into that over a certain width?
There are streets right now that are still under 20, whole streets are, and there are some streets that are all over 20. Yes, that is correct. That is out there right now. That is old planning. As we move forward with recommendations and education from experience, we've moved away from that. So now new plannings don't have all the same tree on the street.
So what happens in this plan with those trees that are under 20, they're not being treated?
Correct.
So is that neighborhood going to be devastated?
Yes, it will. Unfortunately, that is something that will happen. But we're going to try and be proactive to knock on doors, work with the community, talk to them about what's going on, get everything ready to go, and try and do it in a systematic approach so they're not without a tree for very long.
It's not so bad if there's, a tree here and a tree there, but if the whole street goes at the same time, I'm wondering if we should be looking at something on those streets that's a bit more proactive. It's my concern. If I lived on that street and next spring every tree on my street was dead, I would be very upset, as I'm sure everybody else on the street would be. So if we looked at...
We can explore understory planting if space is available. A lot of times, though, because they're going to be a relatively small tree, there won't be an opportunity to do that because it's really limited space, and the tree has to come out and then a new tree has to go back in. But I don't suspect, and through some of the learnings that we're having now, is that this insect doesn't necessarily say it hits 5 or 6 trees, those have to be removed, but it might miss 1 or 2 or 3, and then it jumps to another one. So it might give us an opportunity to leave those ones, because they're still, give us a couple of years to get the new trees planted, so like, it doesn't seem that dramatic and traumatic to homeowners. We'll do our best to try and minimize it 100%.
Okay, I think just if you keep your eye on that and
Yeah.
how to, I wouldn't want to be in the ward of those streets where that could happen or where it's going to affect it so more severely. So I just throw that out there. And maybe that we need to work with the residents on those streets more closely as well.
We do plan to work a lot more closely with the residents, just because we know this insect is coming. So it's going to be, one, the trees that are going to be injected with the homeowners will be approached and will be educated on what's going to happen. Second is that the trees that we know have to be removed, we will be going through proactive and let them know what we are doing, and then they have room for comment before the tree comes down, so we can, again, work with the homeowner to try and minimize this work.
Thank you. I noticed as well on your, and I think it was a typo, on page 96, grant total.
Should be grand total.
I know, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if it was, because I don't believe any level of government is helping out with this. It's left to the lower tier. I'm correct on that?
It's left to us. The municipality,
Yeah.
there isn't one municipality that's getting any funding or assistance from any other government agencies. Again, we're working closely with what the federal government is providing us in research, but that's not providing us with funding for trees.
Well, and I think probably that was a Freudian slip when grant total, because it really should be, because when these pests come through, they can devastate communities, and I think it needs to be addressed by higher levels of government, that this is a piece of infrastructure just like other infrastructure in communities, and there should be some support. So let's hope sometime in the future that isn't a typo, that it actually is a grant. Because it's a lot of money.
Sure is.
So I appreciate all your work on this. And that program's phenomenal.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I have a question about, I have an odd question asked of me by a resident about a property that had too many trees. Is that even possible? I mean, I know there's ridiculous, like, grass space, but is it possible, or is there a bylaw against having too many trees? This is what I thought.
Speaking to an arborist,
No. I can only imagine your line.
But I think really what, maybe the question is there anything dangerous on the property, or is everything in good condition? Like, because it can be that, what happens with competition is trees try to compete each other, and then there can be some conflicting issues. But to say that you can have too many trees, that.
He said something about blocking sunlight, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't pass judgment, I just pass on information. So that is not against the law?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Is there anything further? Just had a couple comments and questions. I was pleased in the report on page 109 where it really tells people the importance of the trees other than shade. So it's water quality, it's air quality, and it's about, you know, keeping the soil, retaining the soil, particularly with the impacts of the severe storms that we're getting now. But I guess my concern is similar to Councillor Jordan's. If we have a whole street of ash trees, and we don't want the whole street, because there was a photo, I believe, in the report that showed you before and after when a street lost all its trees. And I think that's an area that we should be thinking about and focusing on. Also, it's my understanding that a municipality can instruct a private owner, property owner, to remove infected trees. That sounds very simple, but I know there's been cases where there's large properties and many trees, and it cost a significant, like $65,000. And I don't know how many people would have that issue, or if the issue will come up here, but what if it does? What's the plan then? You're going to go to a homeowner and say, you have to take these trees down, and you're quoting what, $2,500 basically for removal, and they've got more than one. They may not be able to afford that. Do we have some plan in place for that? Because it's in our best interest they come down to it.
Yeah, we don't have an official plan, but we do work through property standards, and I do think it's working very closely with bylaw services, is that whether it's an ash tree or not, sometimes homeowners aren't aware that the tree is dangerous or a hazard, or so we inspect it as well as they hire sometimes private arborists to come in and do a report. But unfortunately, that will become a reality. I can speak to some municipalities that have gone through this emerald ash borer outbreak that we're about to go through, Windsor being one. And yes, the municipality tries to work very closely with the homeowner to try and minimize those costs. So we try to provide them with the right contractor, try to present them with some options, time of year, all kinds of things that would help to minimize the cost. But unfortunately, it still is an issue and a safety concern. It has to be removed. So my answer to you would be we have to try and work as best as we could with each homeowner to try and resolve the issue.
The other question too, you're going to recommend competent services that they can hire. Do they have to have any type of special accreditation to ensure that they're disposing of this infected wood properly?
Because we're in a quarantine zone right now, Durham region is all quarantined. Really, the concern is that wood does not leave our region. I do suspect you're going to see the Canadian Food Inspection Agency make the quarantine zone larger. So I don't think that's really going to be the issue. The issue would be, from my point of view, especially if it was a dead tree and it's a large tree, would be liability back on the homeowner to protect the homeowner in case something went wrong. So we'd be recommending to the homeowner qualified people. That we have that now. It's an information piece. We don't endorse one company in general, but we steer them in the right direction to agencies and professional affiliations that we belong to, that they can contact to come out and give them, and they can choose which one they want to work with. But yeah, we do offer that right now as well.
And the chipping of the wood will kill anything? The larva?
Again, we're in a quarantine zone, so the chipping does work as long as it's chipped to a certain size, but until this thing sweeps through and peaks, like I showed in the presentation, we're going to have it. So if the food source exists and there's ash trees out there, we're surrounded from all sides except for the lake, and it's going to come in and it can fly. The adult green insect can fly a long distance. So chipping it is a solution as long as it's small enough, and it does, like I said, we can put it back into our. It's organic matter. It can help grow the new trees. So
okay.
Yeah.
The last question, I know we've had this conversation before about kiln drying wood. As I understand that out in BC with the pine beetle, they still were able to kiln dry the wood so they kill any of the activity in the wood, and then they can use it as lumber or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of in its infancy here. It's making progress. Will we be looking at that too? Because we could possibly make some money back, possibly down the road, if they're mature trees.
Oddly enough, yesterday we received an email. The City of Toronto was just releasing an RFP to get information or gather information on what agencies or what government private industries out there to gather their wood waste, so they can do exactly that. And they've listed those as items of possibility. So for lumber, whatever the case may be, we could definitely explore those options. We have circulated within our internal departments to get some information and feedback back on it, but definitely we can be looking in that direction as we move forward with this.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work you've done on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion to approve? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so we're on 5.3 of the agenda. Mr. Ford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You'll be glad to know no presentation. Just two quick comments. One is that we are working on the green procurement policy now that the ICSP is moving towards completion. So we'll be bringing that back to GGC probably in the February-March time frame. And the last item is we've just really put this on presentation and discussion. We're making the first changes to the limits in 18 years, so we as management committee didn't want to be presumptuous and assume that we could slide it through just on consent, but certainly changes that are long overdue, as you can tell. But that's the only reason we put it on there. It is the first changes in 18 years. I think we're lined up well with best practices, but that's just why we put it on presentations, just to not be presumptuous.
I'll move it.
Are there any questions? Yes? Okay, Councilor Collard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly and not a little bit off topic, but can you just remind me why we can't have a local procurement policy?
Legislatively, there's various trade agreements that very explicitly prohibit local preference policies.
I still don't understand that.
No, I don't understand the same thing.
Through the chair, it's really just through
Can you explain
international.
the logic? Why
Well,
won't they
through-
allow us to buy local things like vehicles and, you know?
If I can, well, there's international, it's the trade agreements that do very clearly prohibit it. But the best, even for, if we were to pretend for a second that there wasn't those free trade agreements, the way I always like to explain it is, if in Ajax we adopted a local preference policy and only gave business to bought goods and services from Ajax, businesses, well, if every other municipality did that, so if the city of Toronto did that, pretty sure Ajax businesses would not survive just on the business the town of Ajax would get to them. So even without legislative, they're not practical. Because if everybody put up those protectionist barriers, then businesses would suffer quite quickly, particularly those that probably, like in Ajax, Whitby, Pickering, Vaughan, Markham, the vast majority of their sales are going to be in the Toronto area. If Toronto put up those barriers, Ajax and Whitby businesses would probably shutter their doors fairly quickly. So that's in the theoretical world, but even if we wanted to do that, legislation, a couple pieces of legislation prohibited.
Okay, thank you.
Been moved in favor? Any opposed? Carried, thank you. So, just before we adjourn, then, just want to say to staff, thank you very much for the work you've done this year, and I think I can speak on behalf of council and the mayor when we say we truly appreciate what you do for us, and it's been a really, really busy year, I know. But I think we make a good team. We work well together, and we just want you to know we do appreciate what you do. So wish you all the best in the holidays for you and your family, and hope you have a nice quiet break and come back well rested for the next round. So I need a motion to adjourn.
No, Madam Chair.
Updates.
Departmental reports.
updates.
Do we have updates?
Yep.
Sorry.
Paul's just
I
chomped
have
on
to
it.
find that.
So just pretend that she made those comments
Ah,
after.
yes.
Thank you very much.
I don't have anything listed here, so go ahead.
Departmental updates.
Yeah, well, are there any?
I have, pardon me, I have one update, if I could. Just on November 7th to the 9th, most council knows, town staff participated in what's called forwarding climate change adaptations in the Great Lakes workshop. It was hosted jointly by the Institute for Sustainable Communities and GGC. That's the Great Lakes Adaptation Assessment for Cities group. It was held in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And the session was quite beneficial, and we'll be reporting more on that back to council in the first GGC in January, and how we made out, and what contribution we made, and what we learned from the session. Following this session, GGC invited Ajax to apply to participate in another workshop group. It's called the Integrated Assessment Project. They're looking for 4 municipalities to work together over a 2-year period towards, again, climate change adaptation. And this town staff looked at the project, and at this time don't feel there's sufficient benefit to Ajax in applying. It's a considerable commitment over the 2-year period. There's some funding, but the funding is very low. It's in the 10 to 20,000 range for a project they want, us to take on, and we'd have to fundraise for the shortfall. And when we met as a group, planning and development and operations, we really had difficulty. We were searching for a project that we could actually bring forward and work on. There's nothing in our current work plan, so it would be a project we would have to pull forward. And as mentioned earlier, we have our hands full with our work plan as it is, and don't feel that we need to take on another project. I guess in summary, there will be other opportunities to participate, and as you know, we participate already with the Clean Air Council, Great Lakes St. Lawrence Group, there's many others outside that we're involved in. So I wanted to, the deadline for submission is Monday, next Monday. It's very short notice, came out. But I just wanted to brief council on that and that's staff's thoughts with regard to that matter.
Any comments, questions? I have a couple.
Mhm.
I was able to go to a conference on climate change and sustainability for ICLEI last week, where our staff was asked to present on our OPA amendments. And I think there's a benefit right off the bat. We have been seen as leaders in the environment, on sustainability, on climate change actions. And other municipalities are benefiting from the work that our staff has done. And I think that is a real honor to be asked again to sit on a committee of 4 people to work on a project. I think it does have benefits to the municipality. And we're doing something, we're on the leading edge, and we're doing something that is for the better good. And it researches into the future. It puts Ajax on the map, and it has done to date. And I think it's also great for our staff to be able to go out and further their knowledge on the issues. So I think it's a great thing, and I think it has great value. It's just not about money sometimes.
And if I could, everything you've said, I certainly don't disagree with. In fact, at the McLacey workshop, Ajax were the leaders, we were the teachers, and what we actually came away with was that role, that identification. We didn't learn that much, but we taught a lot. And kind of feel this, also with this next group, what we would get out of it is not as much as what others would get out of what we could give. That is a great role to play. However, when you're looking at, as we discussed just earlier, a very aggressive number of projects and initiatives that we have underway over the next 2 years to see through this term of council, we've got to be mindful of where we direct our resources. It's a 2-year commitment, and it's a pretty good chunk of work. And we have many projects we want to deliver on. If we commit to this, there would be other projects that wouldn't be worked on. It's the only way we could accommodate it. That being said, we met as a group. We didn't see the need, the value that was at this time, and that's what we brought forward.
So do the 4 communities that are on this committee, they share that responsibility and the cost?
Yeah,
They're all funded to a certain degree.
Yeah, my understanding is, first it's an application, we would apply. We've been asked to apply, so there's another application process. And out of those that have been asked to apply, they'll select 5. That 5 will form a group, and then within that group, each will take on a project, climate adaptation theme project, and then they will fund somewhere in the area of 10 to 20,000 for that project. Any shortcoming with respect to the funding needed to see that project through, consulting work or testing, research that needs to be done, then the municipality is responsible to make up that shortfall in funding, which they don't want the municipality to pay. They want the municipality to fundraise so that it doesn't come out of the town's coffers. And in the United States, as you know, they have a different system than we do in terms of how they get funds out of corporations and other means through sponsorship than we do. The sponsorship side is actually one side that we're really not fussy about.
Thank you.
That's important.
Is that the end of your
Yes, thank
reports
you.
then?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. All right.
Move we adjourn.
So moved. Thank you very much.
Don't go anywhere, we have a council meeting.
Oh, yeah.